before you do your next project, check out this video.
Fantastic. We have successfully put about half the epoxy barrier coat protection that we need to onto the surface of this whaler. What we're going to do is, once we do get complete with the barrier coats, is we're going to put on an ablative type of anti-fouling paint. This boat is going to spend most of its time on a trailer, but come on over to another vessel. I want to introduce it to you. This is Bombardier's 32-foot Condor. It's another one of their test boats. And we've put 4 layers of protection onto the hull of this craft, and Bert's now putting on the 5th, and that's going to give us the correct amount of millage. But what we have to do is we have to wait about an hour and a half for it to tack up. It's about 85 degrees out here. And what I like is, when it's just still a little bit tacky, is I like to apply my first coat of anti-foulant paint. On this craft, we're going to be using a different type of anti-foulant paint. We're going to be using something called a conventional. It's going to spend most of its life in a slip. So while we have a little bit of downtime, what I want to do is I want to roll some footage that we shot 2 weeks ago when we were up in Union, New Jersey with Bob Donay from Interlux, and he was talking about all the different biocides that they use in the different categories of bottom paint. Let's go ahead and roll that.
Over here, John, we have a computer control system that basically weighs all the material that comes in through the different pipes. We have all the different pipes that regulate the raw materials that come in, and as each one comes in, it adjusts the gross weight of the tank. As you can see, we have someone pouring in the different biocides.
Let's take a look at that real quick. We've got somebody. What is he pouring into the vat?
That main component there is one of our components of our slime blocking technology called Biolux.
Okay. And so what does Biolux do?
Biolux helps reduce the amount of slime on the boat, slime and grass and that sort of thing.
All right, so this is for plant life.
Yes.
Now you also need to put in some type of a biocide for shell life. There are a lot of mussels as well as barnacles and stuff like that you want to try to keep off the boat. What do you put into the batches?
That will be our cuprous oxide, and that'll be put in a little bit later after we spend a little bit of time, about an hour or so, mixing this other raw material in.
How long does it take to actually make a batch?
It takes about 6 hours.
All right, now this is a concentrate version.
Yep.
Where does it go after it's been all mixed for that 6 hours?
Once all the raw materials have been added, it goes through a piping system right over next door. Why don't I show you?
Okay, show me.
These tanks over here basically are what we call the letdown tanks. And the product gets pumped over here, and then we start adding some more solvents and everything to get the viscosity just right for the boat owner.
Now, Bob, is this the same tank that we were looking at upstairs?
Actually, no, John. We actually have a couple batches going on today. We're filling our black micron.
It gets plumbed in through this hose, and it goes to this piece of apparatus. What is this called?
This is our filling machine, and we're filling about 4 cans at a time here.
Okay, now check this out. This is an assembly line. This is pretty cool. He's actually stacking the cans on this, what do you call that round thing?
Can disperser.
That's a can disperser. It comes up the line, goes to the filling machine where you're putting a gallon of the material into it. And you can do 4 cans at a time, it looks like. And then what, the lid goes on?
The lid goes on, then it goes through a series of rollers, which will press the lid right down and seal it on top of the can.
It looks like it's going into another room. What's taking place on the other side of that wall?
The next step, John, is we apply a batch number to the top of the can so we can identify it.
Can you show me that?
I can show you that.
Now, what kind of glue are we using here, Bob?
This is a hot melt glue, John, that we use to adhere the label to the can.
I'm noticing on the label that this is the micron. This is, again, a copolymer ablative, which is not a traditional ablative. Traditional ablative is kind of chunk off. This wears away at a controlled rate.
Exactly.
But talk to me about how it looks on a microscopic level.
Microscopically, you have your copper and your resin, 2 main components in the bottom paint. They're chemically bound together, which this helps control the rate at which the copper is going to come out of the paint film and the way the paint wears away over the course of time.
So as the boat's traveling through the water, it's wearing away that paint.
You got it.
Okay? So that's what's exposing fresh copper to the surface, which keeps the barnacles and the growth and the zebra mussels from attaching themselves to the surface.
Exactly.
Unlike a conventional anti-fouling paint, where conventional anti-fouling paints, they leach copper to the surface. What is leaching?
Well, basically the paint film somewhat dissolves and allows the copper to come out of the paint film until there isn't any more left.
But it does leave behind the actual pigment and the actual base material of the paint, which is why you have to sand conventional anti-fouling paint. after years of application, it's going to build in thickness. It doesn't wear away like a copolymer ablative, and you have to sand it, and that's a lot of work, and that's a lot of hassle. But yet a lot of people like it because of the copper content. You can get high copper content in a lot of these conventionals. Why does a boat owner want something with high copper content versus this copolymer ablative, the Micron that you guys make?
Well, we make a variety of different bottom paints for the different boat owners. Some want the copolymer ablatives to help minimize paint buildup over the course of time. You don't have to sand every year, and you don't have to paint every year as long as the paint's still there.
I live in a high fouling area. Is 42% going to protect my boat, or is it not enough copper to do the job?
It's plenty of copper to do the job because the paint film releases the copper more efficiently than just a conventional bottom paint, where it releases the copper. There's no control rate to it. It just keeps coming out of the paint film until there isn't any more left.
There's some upfront discharging on conventionals, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
And so when you're looking at a timeline, you're getting more copper up front than you are at the end, and eventually you get to the point with a conventional paint where it just doesn't work anymore and you have to reapply.
You can find these Interlux products and much more at JamestownDistributors.com.